what really happened at Coyote Pass. Behind the stunning backdrop of northern Arizona's sweeping pines and endless skies, a silent battle was brewing, one that would shatter more than just dreams. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a symbol of unity. 4 homes, 4 wives, 1 shared future. But instead, Coyote Pass became a graveyard of promises, a place where love unraveled, alliances crumbled, and the fractures of a once celebrated polygamist family split wide open for the world to see. The Browns weren't just building houses, they were building hope. They left the flashy cul-de-sac life in Las Vegas behind to live out a vision. Independent households tied together by faith, family, and those winding desert paths. But as the seasons changed, so did the heart of the family. Drama that once simmered quietly behind closed doors began spilling out into full view. TLC cameras captured it all. The distance between Kody and his wives growing, the resentment brewing, the bitterness impossible to ignore. Slowly, that dreamy patch of land, once worth $820,000, became the stage for betrayals, ultimatums, heartbreak, and grief no parent should ever face. On it all started with a big move. After years of living in a Las Vegas cul-de-sac where the Brown family's 4 homes lined up side by side like a suburban statement piece, something shifted. Cody Brown wanted out. He claimed it was about privacy, space, a new beginning. But deep down, it was about control, about legacy, about one last shot at building the polygamous paradise he always envisioned. And so, the family packed up and headed to Flagstaff, Arizona, chasing a dream that would soon become their biggest nightmare. In 2018, the Browns made a massive investment. $820,000 was dropped on 14 sprawling acres of untouched land nestled in the wild hills of northern Arizona. They called it Coyote Pass, a blank slate where love, faith, and structure could finally live side by side. Kody didn't just want 4 houses. He wanted harmony, a communal vision where Meri, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn would each have their own custom-built home on the land, with shared gathering spaces and winding trails connecting their lives. 4 wives, 1 family, 1 united property. But here's the thing. The dream was never just about the land. It was about proving the lifestyle could work. That plural marriage wasn't just a belief. It was a functioning, thriving way of life. Kody's dream wasn't modest. It was a bold vision of unity under the open sky, but it demanded cooperation, communication, and compromise. 3 things the Browns were quickly running out of. Flagstaff brought colder weather, bigger bills, and growing emotional distance. What started as a plan for togetherness slowly turned into isolated rentals, separate lives, and secret resentments. Because building a dream on dirt is easy, but building it on fractured trust? That's a whole different story. And the cracks had already started to show. The land was beautiful, but beauty doesn't build unity. And soon after planting roots in Flagstaff, the family's deep cracks came right to the surface. For years, tensions had simmered just below, unspoken rivalries, favoritism, and emotional distance. But Coyote Pass didn't fix any of it. In fact, it magnified everything. Christine was the first to say what everyone else was thinking. This isn't working. After decades of being the cheerful wife who smiled through Kody's chaos, she finally hit a wall. In November 2021, Christine announced her separation from Kody. It wasn't sudden. Not really. The signs had been there for seasons. Viewers saw her pulling away emotionally, choosing peace over pretending. But when she left, it shattered the illusion that Coyote Pass was ever going to be a place of unity. And then came the shocking twist. Christine didn't just leave. She gave up her portion of the land for $10. That's right. In July 2022, she signed it over to Kody, essentially for free. Not out of guilt, not out of weakness, but because she wanted a clean break, emotionally, legally, and spiritually. And while she officially labeled it as a deed of gift, what she was really giving was something much bigger: freedom. But not everyone saw it that way. Kody, who once promised each wife an equal home on equal land, started restructuring things behind the scenes. As Christine walked away, the power began to shift. Robyn's role grew, and the dream that once belonged to all 4 women slowly started tilting in one direction. Janelle and Meri started asking questions. What would happen to their portions? Was Kody still honoring the plan, or was he rewriting it without them? The trust they had in him, in the family vision, began to crack. Because once one wife walked away, the entire foundation began to feel unstable. The land didn't bring them closer. It exposed everything they'd tried to bury, and now the emotional dominoes were starting to fall. As emotions unraveled, so did the money. By the time Sister Wives reached season 19, the cracks weren't just personal. They were financial. Coyote Pass, once a symbol of unity, was now a ticking time bomb. The family owed $340,000 and the deadline was brutal. Just 75 days to settle the debt. Or the bank could seize the land. And that's when things turned from emotional to desperate. Kody and Janelle, despite their growing tension, were forced to come together. They paid off the balance, fast and quietly, not because things were fixed between them, but because the consequences were too big to ignore. According to public records, they also cleared an additional $140,000 tied to a separate property in Robyn's name. Why Robyn's? Because by then, she wasn't just Kody's legal wife, she was becoming his only true partner in business too. And here's where it gets messy. Ownership of Coyote Pass wasn't as clean as fans thought. At first, each wife was supposed to get a quarter, but after Christine's exit and with Kody's quiet reshuffling, new petitions were filed. Rumors swirled. Kody and Robyn now held 50% of the land. Janelle and Meri were reportedly left splitting the other half. Janelle wasn't having it. She'd invested more than money. She poured years of emotional labor into that land. And now? She had to hire a lawyer just to protect her portion. Public filings confirmed her move. This wasn't just a family disagreement anymore. It was becoming a legal standoff. And while Janelle fought for her place, Meri was quietly fading into the background. She still owned a portion, but her presence in the family was shrinking fast. Her emotional detachment mirrored her physical distance. At this point, even she had to wonder, was Coyote Pass worth fighting for anymore? Behind the scenes, fans started questioning Kody's intentions. Was this all part of a long game to consolidate control with Robyn? Or was he just overwhelmed, trying to fix a dream already in ashes? One thing was clear. The land no longer represented family. It represented power, ownership, and survival. And in the middle of this legal and emotional battlefield, the question wasn't who's staying, it was who's still standing. As the legal battles brewed over land and loyalty, Janelle Brown was facing something much deeper than property lines. In early 2024, tragedy struck. Her beloved son, Garrison Brown, passed away. And just like that, the noise of ownership disputes, the chaos of family politics, all of it faded. What was left was a mother's heartbreak. Janelle, who had often stood in Kody's shadow, the steady wife, the quiet supporter, the one who held the emotional fabric of the family together, was suddenly thrust into unimaginable grief. Garrison wasn't just her son. He was her rock, her protector, her joy. And losing him wasn't just painful. It was paralyzing. She didn't make a dramatic public statement. She didn't sit for interviews or film long emotional monologues. Instead, she turned to what she knew, quiet strength. On social media, she began posting tender, heartfelt tributes, a carousel of memories, smiling photos of Garrison in nature, hugging dogs, serving in the Nevada National Guard. His light shone in every picture, but behind every post, there was something unspoken, the weight of a mother trying to carry on. Janelle's fans immediately rallied around her. Thousands flooded her comments with words of love, admiration, and heartbreak. One follower wrote, "Such lovely recollections. He truly had a beautiful soul." And that was the truth. Garrison's legacy lived in every photo, every tearful caption, every memory Janelle was brave enough to share. But something else was changing too. Alongside her grief, Janelle was evolving. She began posting about her holistic lifestyle cleanse, a 100-pound weight loss, and most of all, healing. Meditation, journaling, finding peace in the small moments. It wasn't for show. It was survival. She started withdrawing from the toxic family dynamics that once consumed her. Less interaction with Kody, less presence around Robyn, more silence, but also more intention. She was reclaiming her energy, and maybe even preparing to start over, because grief doesn't end, it transforms. And for Janelle, it became a catalyst, a way to reevaluate everything: what mattered, who mattered, and how she wanted to spend the rest of her life. As she honored her son, she was also rediscovering herself. And in a way, Garrison's light was still guiding her, not through the land disputes or the headlines, but through the quiet moments of growth, purpose, and peace. While Janelle mourned and transformed, another shift was happening, one that signaled the final unraveling of the Brown family dream. Meri Brown, Kody's first wife, the one who had stood by him through every storm, finally chose to walk away. And this time, it wasn't just emotional distance, it was final. Fans who followed the Brown family from the beginning know Meri's story hasn't been easy. Her relationship with Kody had been strained for years, cold, distant, and full of unresolved pain. They were legally divorced in 2014 so Kody could marry Robyn and adopt her children. But Meri stayed. She kept showing up, kept trying, and when it was clear she wasn't going to be chosen again, she still stayed. Until now. In season 19, Meri dropped the bombshell. She was done. Not with drama, not with anger, just done with being an afterthought. Her decision to leave the show and head back to Utah wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. It was healing. She wasn't just stepping away from a relationship. She was stepping back into herself. But her exit stirred up fresh tension over Coyote Pass. Meri still owned a portion of the property. And though her connection to Kody was over, her financial stake wasn't. What if Kody sold the land? Would she be compensated? Or would her years of loyalty be written off like a closed chapter? It's the question that haunted her final episodes. Her face carried that quiet dread, the fear that she'd poured decades of love, labor, and sacrifice into something that might leave her with nothing. And viewers felt it. They saw the woman who once clung to hope now grappling with the possibility of walking away empty-handed. But just like Christine, Meri didn't leave with a fight. She left with dignity. According to later land filings, Kody did offer her and Janelle larger shares of the property than previously thought. A symbolic gesture? Maybe. A small nod to their sacrifices? Possibly. But by then, the damage was done. Meri's departure marked the final fracture. 3 wives gone, only Robyn remained, and the dream of Coyote Pass, once a promise of forever, was now a fading memory. It was the end of an era, and yet, for Meri, it might finally be the beginning of her own. So after all the heartbreak, legal fights, and emotional exits, the ultimate twist came quietly, almost too quietly. In August 2023, reports confirmed what many fans had feared for years. Coyote Pass was up for sale. Listed for a staggering $1.65 million, the land that once symbolized the Brown family's legacy had now become a real estate transaction. No groundbreaking, no family homes, just brush, dirt, and a dream long buried beneath resentment. It didn't come with a press release or a family announcement. There was no heartfelt group decision on camera, just a cold, clinical listing from Kody and Robyn, the last 2 still legally tied, both emotionally and on paper. The rest had walked away, or been pushed. The sale shocked longtime viewers. Wasn't this the sacred ground where they were going to build their forever? Weren't those porches going to connect them all, where kids could wander freely and grandkids would gather someday? All gone. It wasn't just land going up for sale. It was the last goodbye to a collective dream. Christine had already let go. Meri had detached. Janelle was still fighting for her portion, but even she seemed more focused on healing than holding on. And Kody, the man who once clutched blueprints like they were the gospel, he now seemed like a stranger to his own fantasy. Fans noticed the shift. His spark was gone. His once grand vision dimmed. And Robyn, who had once wept at the idea of a unified family compound, was now listed as co-owner, ready to cash out. So what changed? Everything. Years of dysfunction, public breakups, private betrayals, legal twists, death, grief, and silence. And now, what remained of Coyote Pass was just acreage, split, argued over, and sold to the highest bidder. Not one house had been built. Not one foundation poured. The land stayed untouched, as if it refused to let itself be part of a family that never truly united. And perhaps that's the tragic irony. The land they bought for unity had become a mirror of their division. Everyone came to Coyote Pass with hope, but they left with heartbreak. For all the blueprints and promises, it turned into something else entirely. A cemetery of broken vows, marked by the footsteps of people who loved, lost, and finally walked away. This wasn't just the end of a storyline, it was the burial of a dream, and all that remains is a for sale sign in the Arizona dust, whispering, "Once, this was supposed to be home." And just like that, the gates to Coyote Pass are closing. No homes, no legacy, just silence and wind sweeping across the brush-covered hills. The dream is gone, but the people, the women, the children, the ones left standing, they're still here, just not together. Christine, the first to walk away, is thriving. She's glowing, remarried, and living her best life back in Utah, far from the shadow of the family she once held together with quiet strength. On social media, she's smiling, genuinely smiling, surrounded by adult kids who adore her, and supported by fans who never stopped rooting for her. Her departure wasn't just a divorce from Kody, it was a rebirth. And looking at her now, you can see the peace that only comes from finally choosing yourself. Janelle, meanwhile, continues to grieve and rebuild. The loss of her son, Garrison, will forever leave a mark, but she's holding her head high. She's not just moving forward, she's transforming. From weight loss to journaling to soul-healing meditations, Janelle is carving a new path that doesn't require Kody or Coyote Pass. Rumors swirl that she's setting down roots in North Carolina, maybe even building that dream home, just on her own terms this time. She's showing the world that strength isn't loud, it's steady. Meri is quieter, more reserved, but no less determined. She's back in Utah, running her bed and breakfast, surrounded by people who see her not as a leftover wife, but as a full woman with her own story. Her posts are softer, sometimes cryptic, but the message is always there. I'm still standing. For Meri, leaving wasn't a retreat. It was the final act of courage. And then there's Robyn and Kody, the only legal marriage left standing, but at what cost? They hold the land now, or what's left of it. But the dream? It's ashes. The once charismatic Kody is now seen as a man clinging to the pieces of an empire that collapsed under his own weight. Robyn, the last one in, is now the last one left. And whether she feels victorious or stranded, only she knows. So what really happened at Coyote Pass? Maybe it was never about land at all. Maybe it was about truth, about love, power, loss, and the cost of believing in a dream that never truly included everyone. The Brown family's story didn't end with a happily ever after, but it did end with clarity. Everyone is where they were meant to be, and sometimes walking away is the most honest way to come home. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more stories where truth meets reality. See you next time.